What if we're dead? Until you all found me, I thought for sure I was.
Don't worry, Yang. You're not dead. And neither is Ruby, or Weiss, or Blake. But Little, or the Curious Cat, or the Jinxie Peddler, or the Herbalist, or the Red Prince, and now the Blacksmith. Yeah, they very much are dead. Today's RWBY theory: the Ever After is the afterlife. Hello everyone, my name is Rygene, and that is my theory based on RWBY Volume 9, Chapter 5. If it is not already very obvious, there are heavy spoilers for that chapter in this video, so I would recommend you go watch that first before coming back here. We've gotten to know the Ever After very well in the first 5 episodes, and there is still so much more to learn. So before I explain why my theory makes sense, we need to recap everything we know about the Ever After first. Team RWBY fell through a pocket dimension into a place called the Ever After. It seems like they're repeating a fairy tale's events despite being in its sequel somehow. The people of this world view their purpose as their identity. When they are no longer performing their purpose as they are meant to, they are given a new purpose more in line with their identity, and their memory is wiped clean. But despite a clean memory, the heart never forgets. This process of receiving a new purpose is called ascending. The place where someone ascends is called the Ever After too, despite that term also applying to the world at large. Nobody in the Ever After ever dies. They just come back with new purposes over and over again, unless the Jabberwocker eats them. Little doesn't have a purpose yet because, according to them, they are very young. Other than the official pathway, there are a few individual people who can also change somebody's purpose. This can happen by receiving a part of the Curious Cat's heart, or taking a weapon from the blacksmith. Alex, Penny's, and Summer's weapons are all at that blacksmith. Alex, the girl who fell through the world, entered the Ever After somehow some time ago and didn't know its culture. She was said to have caused a war among the townsfolk, which caused a lot of deep-seated hatred of her before she supposedly learned some kind of lesson along the way and supposedly returned to Remnant as a changed person. And supposedly she wrote the fairy tale book about her. Jean has apparently become the Rusted Knight, though because the heart never forgets, he remembers Team RWBY. And last and most importantly, Ruby Rose is receiving a heavy character focus, where she is constantly challenged to become someone new and get a new purpose. Over and over again, episodes in a row. As I said in my previous video about the fact that Alex never left the Ever After, which I made after the first episode in the opening sequence of the show first revealed, there are some things you can only learn about Remnant after leaving it entirely. Alex learned a lot in the Ever After, and by the next episode, Chapter 6, so too will we. If not by the volume's end, of course. Team RWBY will learn that the Ever After is itself the afterlife, where people from Remnant and the other worlds the Brother Gods created go after they die. That's a pretty ballsy theory, but think about it. Nobody in the Ever After ever dies except through the Jabberwocker. Everyone here lives forever even though their identities do change over time. There is no potential afterlife that these people could possibly go to via normal means after this one. They are here forever. This is called the Ever After because it is where you go forever after you die. The truth is staring us in the face with this giant tree and so many distinct locales. And technically there could be another place, a different afterlife that this place doesn't apply to, but that wouldn't be fun. And the Ever After is perfectly poised to be exactly that kind of realm. More importantly, it being the afterlife also provides Ruby Rose with a lot more possibilities for character growth, which I'll get to later. But if you think about it this way, Little doesn't have a purpose yet. Little is innately from the Ever After, so what is it about being young that prevents Little from having a purpose already right now? My answer to that is that Little was reincarnated into the Ever After somewhat recently, after dying somewhere else. Like, for instance, Penny dying on the yellow brick road. Yes, I'm saying that Penny Polendina is Little, and we've already seen a few hints for this. The jar that Jinxie holds up appears to contain both Little and Penny's disguised sword. Little even steals the sword without Ruby's input, so there's likely an affinity there. And as a quick side note, I have half a mind to bet that Jinxie's treasures being other items in disguise foreshadows that people in the Ever After are people from Remnant in a sort of disguise, like here with Little being Penny. Little's moment for calling Hugs valuable references Penny in Volume 8, Chapter 12. And then, in Chapter 5, the blacksmith asks Little about their purpose while Ruby is looking at the sword again. Little says they don't have a purpose, but they're helping Ruby despite not really knowing how to help. Little hasn't been in the Ever After long enough to have found their purpose, so they haven't been swallowed into a hole in the ground and they haven't ascended with that purpose yet. But I'm sure that after helping Ruby for long enough, Little will realize their purpose and will ascend anew before Volume 9 ends. Little still needs to find their identity before some arbiter of some kind can assign a purpose based on it, because that's what it all comes down to. You're given a purpose in the Ever After based on what you already are, and your purpose might change over time to better fit who you are, or who you might have become. Other than Little, Team RWBY and Neo also don't have purposes yet. This so-called Arbiter has not assigned them the purpose of Huntress in the Ever After. Team RWBY hasn't ascended yet. Team RWBY is just calling themselves a Huntress to get by whenever someone asks them the question of, "What are you?" Now to talk about why this all matters. The Ever After being the afterlife makes an incredibly huge difference. And the thing is, people at large lose their memories from beforehand after they ascend to a new purpose. And in my theory, after dying and being reborn into the Ever After in the first place. That's why the Red Prince lived as the Red Prince and not the Red King. Yet the heart never forgets, and that's why the Red Prince remembered Alex. And that's also why Jean remembers Team RWBY. And I'll also add that that is why Little has an affinity for Ruby and wants to be her guide. Memory loss is a trope for a reason. It allows characters to be in the plot for longer than they otherwise would be, and affect it in ways that they couldn't if they knew at a bare minimum who they were. It also sets up a reveal for later. Thus, many important characters, especially those who have died, can still contribute to people's character arcs in a new way. And this volume is Ruby Rose's time in the spotlight. She is the one for supporting characters to help. And this brings us to the blacksmith scene. Ruby is taken away from the market and put at the blacksmith, where she sees Penny Polendina's, Alex's, and Summer Rose's weapons, each hung up. And I know that other people have their theories about this axe-scythe hybrid, but to me it can only mean that Summer Rose is down here in the Ever After in some form. We don't know how Summer Rose got here, given how crazy Team RWBY's situation was for it to happen to them, but we have no reason to think that it is impossible. The blacksmith tells Ruby she can rid herself of her burden and take on a new purpose simply by leaving the shop with a new weapon. With Crescent Rose MIA, a new weapon would help, but Ruby would become a new person entirely if she took one. And what that insinuates to me is that these three purposes are not currently filled. In order for these weapons to be in the blacksmith in the first place, either the characters who they belong to had to leave them behind and maybe take up a new weapon, or just leave it behind in general and find a new purpose some other way, or these weapons became abandoned and these purposes became vacant another way. But either way, these purposes have become vacant, and now Ruby has been given the opportunity to take any one of them up. But exactly how did they become vacant? At the very least for Alex, we already know that she changed to a new purpose. Mostly because that's a part of the fairy tale that she's in to begin with. She wasn't the same person anymore when she supposedly returned home. So for her, it's not really that much of a shocker that she might have left her dagger behind. And if my theory about Penny being Little is up for grabs, then clearly Penny is no longer the purpose of Penny anymore, and, well, her purpose can be in the blacksmith. And that leaves us with Summer. Despite all the potential Volume 8 theories about Summer with human experimentation at the hands of Salem, which can definitely still be true, we will ultimately meet with Summer in Volume 9 via a new purpose of hers. Once Ruby can identify who Summer might be and can get Summer to remember enough about Remnant, she may even take on a new purpose for Ruby, or rather, her original one. And if she does become her old self via her original purpose, she may even regain her old memories. Ruby is losing herself, and she's not in a good position to pull herself back together. She needs to know more about Alex and Penny and Summer, these pivotal characters to her story, to bring about that change for the better in herself. These three characters hold the keys for Ruby to understand a lot more about who she is and where she fits. But to do that, she'll also need her weapon back. Weapons are fundamental aspects of the characters who use them. If Ruby gets a new weapon at the blacksmith, she would get a new purpose, and she would ultimately lose herself for good in the process. She would have no memory anymore. So ultimately, Crescent Rose needs to return somehow. Once all of this happens, Ruby will end Volume 9 reaffirming everything she told Little in the first chapter.
I'm a human. A girl. A huntress. I'm Ruby Rose.
And personally, I would bet that the same force that has been keeping Team Ruby on Alex's path is what led Ruby to the blacksmith. I'd also bet that that force is Alex herself, if not the person that Alex might have had some final encounter with before supposedly returning to Remnant. Which, again, is not something that I believe she did. It's not just that Team Ruby is following Alex, but that Alex is leading them. Now, we don't know what Alex's motivations are. We don't know why she would potentially lead Team Ruby along a very specific path that she herself also took, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alex is the main antagonist of this volume, or at least one of them. As much as Neo factors into Volume 9, there are inevitably going to be hostile forces to Team Ruby on the island itself, or on the Ever After itself. And I know that the fairy tale book of the girl who fell through the world does say at the end that Alex returned to Remnant, and is the one who wrote it. But we can't take that at face value. I see no reason personally to believe everything that that book says, or everything that every character is saying about Alex when it's all hearsay, and we don't have a character who's able to speak for her own motivations until we actually meet her. And the thing is, ghostwriting exists, right? People write under pseudonyms all the time, so just because somebody named Alex wrote the book doesn't mean that that was technically their actual name. The author could just be using Alex's name as a pseudonym to make the fairy tale more believable for the kids it's aimed at. And if Alex never left the Ever After and adopted a new purpose while she was there, she would still be there, because nothing ever dies in the Ever After, despite the fact that she's wearing clothes from millennia ago. But yeah, you know what, fine. If not Alex, who wrote the book, right? Who do I think might have written the book? And to that, I would have to go with Ozpin. For one, his vaults are the pocket dimensions that the Ever After is also connected to, so we have no reason to think he's not familiar with a place like this. Especially with the fact that he's lived here for thousands of years. That's a lot of time to go to the Ever After in. Especially when somebody from an era that we've seen of his has also been there. I feel like they were traveling companions at some point. And that is all I have to say about the Ever After theory for now. I very much wanted to get this video out before Chapter 6 aired, because the way that it looks to me, I feel like the opening of Chapter 6 is going to debunk a lot of this, or confirm a lot of this. And that's all it's going to be. What do you think about this theory? What are your theories specifically for the Ever After? How high fantasy do you think this is going to get? I'm very interested to hear. So let me know down below. As always, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. I'm Raijin Rising. Have a good one. Wait. What if Little was Summer and not Penny? I think that should have been the video.